In the late 15th century, England emerged from the ashes of the Wars of the Roses, a series of dynastic conflicts that devastated the nobility. It was then that Henry VII ascended to the throne, initiating the Tudor dynasty. Under his reign, and that of his successors, Henry VIII and Elizabeth I, the English monarchy consolidated its power, supported by a middle class eager for stability. The Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485 marked a pivotal moment. Henry VII defeated Richard III, ending the Wars of the Roses and establishing the Tudor dynasty. To solidify his claim and unify the warring factions, Henry VII married Elizabeth of York, daughter of Edward IV. This union symbolically brought together the House of Lancaster and the House of York, putting an end to decades of bitter conflict and setting the stage for a new era in English history. Henry VII's reign was characterized by efforts to strengthen the monarchy and stabilize the realm. He worked diligently to restore law and order, often employing shrewd political maneuvers and strategic marriages to secure alliances. The establishment of the Court of Star Chamber helped to curb the power of the nobility and ensure justice, while his financial policies laid the groundwork for a prosperous and more centralized government. Under Henry VIII, the Tudor dynasty experienced significant changes, including the break with the Roman Catholic Church and the establishment of the Church of England. This move, driven by Henry's desire for an annulment of his marriage to Catherine of Aragon and a male heir, had profound religious, political, and social implications. It led to the dissolution of monasteries and the redistribution of their wealth, further consolidating royal authority. In 1534, Henry declared himself the supreme head of the Church of England, initiating the English Reformation. Between 1536 and 1541, King Henry VIII dissolved the monasteries, redistributing their lands and wealth to the crown and his loyal supporters. This monumental action not only dismantled the powerful monastic system that had been a cornerstone of medieval English society, but also reallocated vast resources, including lands and wealth, to the emerging class of gentry and nobility who supported his rule. The dissolution significantly altered England's economic and social landscape, shifting the balance of power and contributing to the rise of a more centralized and secular state. Additionally, Henry's 6 marriages, largely motivated by the desire for political alliances and a male heir, further complicated the line of succession. His marriages led to the birth of 3 legitimate children, Mary I, Elizabeth I, and Edward VI, each of whom would go on to rule England. The marital turmoil, including the annulment of his first marriage to Catherine of Aragon and the execution of his second wife, Anne Boleyn, also sparked the English Reformation and the eventual break from the Roman Catholic Church. This period of marital and religious upheaval not only influenced the political landscape of England, but also left a lasting impact on its cultural and religious identity.
People, we see the sails of the enemy approaching. We hear the Spanish guns over the water. Soon now, we will meet them. face to face. I am resolved in the midst and heat of the battle to live or die amongst you all. While we stand together, no invader shall pass. Let them come with the armies of hell. They will not pass. And when this day of battle is ended, we meet again in heaven, or on the field of victory.
Elizabeth's reign is often seen as a golden age. Her policies brought stability and prosperity, fostering a period of remarkable cultural and economic growth. The Elizabethan religious settlement sought to unite the country and reduce religious conflict. The Elizabethan era saw a flourishing of the arts, with figures like William Shakespeare making lasting contributions. The defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588 established England as a formidable naval power, securing its independence from Spanish dominance. The Tudors maintained the appearance of a popular government by manipulating Parliament. They called Parliament irregularly, limited its sessions, and filled it with allies, ensuring total control. In 1603, Elizabeth I died without leaving a direct heir. The English throne passed to her distant cousin, James VI of Scotland, who became James I of England, beginning the Stuart dynasty. James I faced significant challenges as he tried to impose his vision of the divine right of kings. James's imposition of new taxes and interference in economic matters alienated many, particularly the emerging middle class and the gentry, who were increasingly influential in English society. His financial policies, often perceived as arbitrary and burdensome, were seen as attempts to circumvent parliamentary authority and fund his extravagant court. This created a growing rift between the monarchy and parliament, as well as among the populace, who resented the king's disregard for traditional rights and privileges. Moreover, James's inconsistent religious policies further exacerbated tensions. His efforts to enforce religious conformity were viewed with suspicion by both Catholics and Puritans. Catholics felt persecuted under laws that restricted their worship and imposed heavy fines for non-compliance. The infamous gunpowder plot of 1605, an attempted assassination of the king and Parliament by a group of Catholic conspirators, exemplified the depth of their discontent. On the other hand, Puritans were frustrated by James's resistance to further Protestant reforms. They saw his efforts to maintain a moderate Anglican church as a betrayal of their hopes for a more thorough reformation. This dissatisfaction among religious groups, combined with economic grievances and the king's authoritarian tendencies, contributed to a growing sense of unrest and division within the kingdom. These tensions would eventually set the stage for the political and religious conflicts that culminated in the English Civil War during the reign of his son, Charles I. In 1625, James I died and was succeeded by his son, Charles I. Like his father, Charles believed in the absolute power of the king, leading to conflict with Parliament and the Puritans. To finance wars, Charles imposed arbitrary taxes, ignoring the Petition of Right of 1628. The Petition of Right of 1628 was a significant constitutional document in English history, presented to King Charles I by Parliament. It arose out of widespread dissatisfaction with the king's policies, including his abuse of power and disregard for established laws. The Petition of Right sought to address these grievances and assert certain liberties that the monarch could not infringe upon. Charles I reluctantly agreed to the Petition of Right, but he continued to govern without Parliament for a significant portion of his reign, leading to further tensions and eventual conflict. The petition is considered a foundational document in the development of constitutional law in England, as it reinforced the principle that the monarch was subject to the law and that citizens had rights that could not be arbitrarily violated. Its legacy influenced later constitutional documents, including the Habeas Corpus Act of 1679 and the Bill of Rights of 1689, which further limited the powers of the monarchy and expanded the rights of individuals. Charles's attempt to impose Episcopalianism in Scotland led to armed rebellion, without resources to suppress the revolt. He was forced to convene Parliament after 11 years of autocratic rule. Parliamentary leaders moved to limit his power, marking the beginning of a struggle for control. England plunged into civil war, pitting the Roundheads, led by the parliamentarians, against the Cavaliers loyal to King Charles I. The conflict was rooted in deep-seated political, religious, and social divisions, with the Roundheads advocating for a more parliamentary and Protestant-led government, while the Cavaliers supported the royal prerogative and the Anglican Church. The war, which spanned from 1642 to 1651, was marked by a series of intense and bloody battles, as well as significant political maneuvering. Oliver Cromwell, a talented military leader and fervent Puritan, emerged as a key figure in the parliamentary cause. He initially gained prominence for his role in organizing and leading the new model army, a disciplined and highly effective military force that became instrumental in the parliamentarian success. Cromwell's leadership and strategic acumen were pivotal in securing decisive victories at battles such as Marston Moor in 1644 and Naseby in 1645. His commitment to the Puritan cause and belief in divine providence also infused the army with a strong sense of purpose and moral resolve. Following the capture and trial of King Charles I, the monarchy was abolished, and Cromwell played a crucial role in the establishment of the Commonwealth of England. As Lord Protector, Cromwell ruled with a mixture of military authority and religious zeal, seeking to implement a godly commonwealth based on Puritan values. His tenure was marked by efforts to reform the legal system, promote religious tolerance for various Protestant sects, and expand England's influence abroad. Although Cromwell proclaimed a republic, his government became a military dictatorship. He dissolved Parliament and ruled with absolute authority, facing revolts in Ireland and Scotland. His leadership, however, strengthened England's position internationally. However, Cromwell's rule also faced significant challenges, including resistance from royalists, discontent among various factions within the parliamentarian coalition, and growing dissatisfaction with his authoritarian style of governance. After Cromwell's death in 1658, the Protectorate quickly unravelled, leading to the eventual restoration of the monarchy under Charles II in 1660. The English Civil War and its aftermath left a lasting legacy on the nation's political landscape, including the precedent for challenging absolute monarchy and the continued struggle for a balance of power between the monarchy and Parliament. In 1660, a new Parliament invited Prince Charles to return and restore the monarchy. Charles II was crowned king, marking the beginning of the restoration. Charles II's reign marked a period of stabilization. He worked to restore traditional institutions, but faced ongoing political and religious challenges. His sympathies towards Catholicism led to suspicion and tension with Parliament. The threat of absolutism returned with James II, who tried to re-establish Catholicism and challenge Parliament's authority. His actions alienated much of the population and the political elite. The Glorious Revolution of 1688 to 1689, a pivotal moment in English history, marked the transition from absolute to constitutional monarchy. This relatively bloodless coup d'etat, which saw the deposition of King James II and the ascension of his daughter Mary II and her husband, William III of Orange, had profound and far-reaching implications. At its core, the revolution was a response to the growing discontent with James II's absolutist tendencies and his overt Catholicism in a predominantly Protestant nation. His attempts to bypass Parliament and appoint Catholics to key positions were seen as direct challenges to the established order. The invitation extended to William of Orange, a staunch Protestant, to invade England reflected the nation's desire for a return to constitutional principles and religious security. The consequences of the revolution were manifold. The Bill of Rights, enacted in 1689, served as a cornerstone in the establishment of a constitutional monarchy. By delineating the rights of Parliament and limiting the monarch's power, it enshrined the principle of government by consent. This marked a decisive shift away from the divine right of kings and towards a system where the monarch's authority was subject to the law. Concurrently, the revolution significantly enhanced the power of Parliament. It solidified its role as the supreme law-making body, capable of both checking and balancing the monarchy. This newfound authority laid the groundwork for parliamentary supremacy, a fundamental principle of British constitutionalism that would shape the nation's political landscape for centuries to come. While the revolution was essentially a Protestant affair, it also ushered in a period of greater religious tolerance. The Toleration Act of 1689 granted limited religious freedoms to Protestant dissenters, though Catholics remained subject to discriminatory laws. This represented a modest step towards a more inclusive society, albeit one with significant limitations. The reverberations of the Glorious Revolution extended beyond England's shores. In the American colonies, the overthrow of James II's appointed governors, who were seen as oppressive and unresponsive to local concerns, strengthened the colonists' sense of self-governance. This event was instrumental in the dismantling of the Dominion of New England, a controversial administrative consolidation imposed by James II that had centralized control over several colonies. The colonists' successful resistance to this imposition bolstered their confidence and reinforced their belief in the right to self-determination. This growing spirit of independence, fueled by the principles of the Glorious Revolution, would eventually culminate in the American Revolution, as the colonists sought to secure their rights against perceived overreach by the British Crown. The long-term significance of the Glorious Revolution cannot be overstated. It stands as a landmark event in the evolution of democratic principles and constitutional government. The revolution not only affirmed the supremacy of Parliament over the monarchy, but also established critical legal precedents, such as the Bill of Rights of 1689, which enshrined essential liberties, including the right to free speech within Parliament, the prohibition of cruel and unusual punishments, and the requirement for regular parliaments. These principles provided a blueprint for limiting executive power and safeguarding individual liberties, influencing political thought and legal frameworks across the globe. In essence, the Glorious Revolution was a watershed moment that transformed the English political landscape. It established the foundations of a constitutional monarchy, wherein the monarch's powers were significantly curtailed and balanced by an empowered parliament. This new political order promoted the rule of law and accountability, setting the stage for modern democratic governance. Moreover, the revolution fostered a degree of religious tolerance, particularly through the Toleration Act of 1689, which allowed for greater religious diversity and set a precedent for freedom of conscience. The legacy of the Glorious Revolution continues to shape the democratic world order, as its principles of constitutionalism, the separation of powers, and the protection of individual rights have become foundational elements of many democratic systems. Its impact can be seen not only in the development of British political institutions, but also in the broader narrative of the struggle for democratic governance and human rights around the world.